I just think those players, you're right, I think they are thoroughbreds, but under this coaching group, we're seeing more donkey than thoroughbred.
That was embarrassing as an All Blacks fan, seeing someone foot trip someone on a field. That'll get you beaten up at high school.
But what I am really impressed with them is statement games. Cape Town, they had to win this year. They had to win in Wellington after losing at Eden Park. They had to go to Paris and win, and then they turn up and put in their best performances. DSPN is brought to you by Novus Glass, proud partner of the Special Olympics New Zealand. The Special Olympics New Zealand National Summer Games is in Christchurch, Otautahi, this December. Across New Zealand, Aotearoa athletes, clubs, volunteers and families are getting ready, training, supporting each other and celebrating as the flame of hope travels down the country. Text Novus to 3598 to support our athletes. That's Novus, Novus, to 3598 to support our incredible athletes at the Special Olympics in Christchurch, Otautahi this December. Notice it, Novus it.
Welcome to the DSPN.
Team New Zealand's in trouble.
Oh, he's done it again, Ricky Herbert.
The Devlin Sports Podcast Network.
DSPN, Martin, Devlin, Lachlan War. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to the show. Rugby Central. Today, we're talking All Blacks and building up big time for this very important test. Season defining against England at Twickenham on Sunday. Tomorrow, Brayton Polser is going to join us for a good long chat. His thoughts on where the Springboks are at. But today, it is about the All Blacks. The team is announced on Friday. We've got selection issues to discuss, including midfield, outside backs. What do we do in terms of our bench and the impact that has been so good in the last couple of matches? And this England team, which is on a roll of their own, and they go into this match very buoyant indeed. Mark Watson, John Day on the panel, as well as that. The legend Murray Mexted joins us tomorrow. Brayton Polser, and a good long chat with the former Springbok winger. Changing Sheds is our new subscription model, though, where you are looking at on the DSP YouTube channel, where you get the subscribe button. Next to it is a join button. If you hit that join, we still want you to hit subscribe for us. We're over 18,000 subscribers on YouTube, and we want to try and get to 20,000 before Christmas. But the join button means that you become part of the family. A couple of bucks a week. If you can afford this and you want to support us financially, then this is the way to do it. You get a whole lot of news, views, interviews, opinion pieces, behind the scenes footage, a whole lot of extra stuff. It doesn't mean that we're going to cut back on anything that we're doing that you can view for free. It's just that if you would like to support us, and that is support us financially, well then this is the way to do it. A couple of bucks a week, and it means we can keep the lights on, microphones on. We're like any other business. We've got to generate income. The media world is changing. And so for all of us in these jobs, we've got to figure out how we can self-fund to sustain and maintain. And this is one way that we are doing it. So if you're listening or watching via Spotify video, you just go for the extra benefits banner there, hit that, follow your nose as well. A couple of bucks a week, as I say, it's called Changing Sheds. England then, coming up on Sunday. Let's go to work.
Marty Sermons, brought to you by WebWonks. Generate online leads with WebWonks. Doctors for your Google data.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
Sunday morning's match-up with the Poms is the litmus test for our All Blacks, without doubt, the season definer for 2025. I'll start with the glass half-empty approach. Lord, we lose this game. Just imagine, we lose this game. We teleport ourselves, I reckon, straight back to 2022. Same kind of mental state we were in after losing the home series to Ireland. I reckon it would feel that dire, immediately that level of pessimism. We lose, we'll feel like we're stuck in mud, in a rut. There's going to be much angst about everything to do with everything about our team, including huge and relevant questions around the coaching group and whether or not they're the right people to see us through to the Rugby World Cup 2027. All these discussions. That is the magnitude of this occasion, this one match. The consequence of defeat would mean a lot of navel-gazing all summer. Who wants that? Who needs that? Such an unsatisfactory way to end the year it would be. That's glass half empty. That's if we lose. I don't believe we are going to lose. Let's go glass half full. We win this game. We finish the year on an upward trajectory. No, we're not South Africa, and they are a better team than us. I've been talking about that all week. No, let's talk about us, though. We finish with progress clearly being made. That would be 6 wins in a row. And I include Wales on that, because if we beat England, we're going to beat Wales. We'd be feeling a hell of a lot better about ourselves, better than we were this time last year after we'd lost 4 matches. Feeling very much, I think, results-wise, that we're on the right track. We're rebuilding well. Plenty of work to do still. I'm not saying not. but the signs promising. This is if we win. The future would feel a lot more optimistic. We beat England. That's the Grand Slam sewn up because Wales... Look, I'd love Wales to be better than they are, but they're in such a hole right now. I think the New Zealand 15 would comfortably take them. In fact, I think that the Canterbury NPC side would win in Cardiff at the moment, such as the state of their national team. And that's no disrespect to the NPC side. We lose, perish the thought, and it would feel like 2 steps forward, 3 backwards. Pressure? Hell yes. Yes, but I wouldn't want it any other way. This is what playing for and coaching the All Blacks is all about. Winning when we have to win. Getting the right result when it matters most. That's what the Springboks are doing at the moment. That's what they've done all year. Cape Town, Wellington, Paris. So let's not fear this. Let's embrace this. We're the All Blacks. England at Twickenham is one of the biggest fixtures for any team in world rugby. You want to be the best, you've got to go and beat the best away from home. The Boks just did it in Paris. Time for us to rinse and repeat. So this Sunday morning, season defining, everything to play for. Where are we at? How do we assess and grade the year? Are we improving? Have we made progress? Do we have forward momentum? All of those questions get answered versus England, Sunday morning, Twickenham. DSPN, we welcome back the panel from last week. By popular demand, Mark Watson joins us, John Day joins us in the studio here. Watto, welcome.
Yeah, lovely to be on. Nice to see you, John.
Yeah, popular demand. I'm not sure, Martin, whether people got angry or were happy with what we said last week.
Well, this is all part of it. We welcome your comments, of course. Mark, we'll start with you. I got the same question for both of you. Are the All Blacks, were we better against Scotland than we were against Ireland?
I thought for the first 25 to 30 minutes, John made a really good point last week, or I think he summarised it nicely, that in 25 tests or 24 tests up to this point, we haven't seen that one statement performance, that one stamp which says, hey, this is what Scott Robertson's looking to do. And finally, we've sort of got to that place. And I felt after 25 minutes, maybe we're heading down that path and thinking, wow, we might actually do a demolition on this very good Scottish team. But then, the usual things that have, I guess, plagued this team over the last couple of years started to creep in, poor discipline. And then for whatever reason, we just go to sleep for large periods of the game. Last against Ireland, it was for the first 60 minutes. I guess against Scotland, it was probably for that 25 minutes or just before half-time and that sort of 20 minutes after half-time. Was it an improved performance? Yes, I think it was an improved performance. There were a lot of things to like. Obviously, I think the loose forward trio looked a lot better. I do like the combination in midfield of Tupaia and Leicester Fainga'anuku. And Josh Lord. I mean, the guy that we've heard so much about, we've never really seen him play, have we? Josh Lord? Josh who? Because he's just been plagued by injury, and just picking that ball up with his mitt, did take you back to those nostalgic days of Colin Mead. So, I thought it was a better performance, but still not the performance that I expect from an All Black team after 24 tests under this coaching group.
I think just in terms of those locks, I'm thinking Ali Williams, Chris Jack. We got a young combination, just like those two when they came in the early 2000s, John. But the same question to you. Do you think we were better overall than we were against Ireland?
No, I don't. Actually, a lot like Watto at half-time, even with that yellow card, I was like, here we go. This could be the statement we're looking for. But I do a list of positives and negatives at the end of every test and try and match them up. I had more positives from Ireland and I had more negatives from the Scotland test. I mean, you can't get 3 yellow cards and be better than the week before, in my opinion, when you get none. Like playing 30 minutes of a game with 14 players and 3 stupid ones again. And even a penalty while we were down to 14 men for being in front of the kicker. Like, this is just, not even my son who's 5 years old does that. It's just real schoolboy stuff. So I thought it was really frustrating, that game, actually, to allow a team back in once you're 17-0 up through your own stupid mistakes and through passive defence. I thought as well, we were waiting until they were right on our line before we tackled them hard. What happened to the good old days of absolutely snotting someone with a Jerry Collins or a Jerome Kano, We're just not making aggressive, dominant tackles, and we relied on some brilliance from turnover ball, from some loose forwards, and Leicester Fainga'anuku and little Damian McKenzie doing what he does best and impacting the game from the bench. So, yeah, I thought it was a step backwards, a small step backwards.
I liken it to the test in Cordoba, Mark, where I think that, for the first 25, 30 minutes, as you said, we were really good. Then we went off the boil. Then we came in big time strong at the end. And so I like the fact that both of those games, I was grumpy after the Ireland one, but I like the fact that both of those games, the last 20, the last 15, that we did actually start to dominate again. And that is a real hallmark of All Black rugby. I don't know what it says. It says resilience, it says character, it also says conditioning and all of those things. So I think those are really positive. Plus, of course, Damien McKenzie, we've got a world beater off the bench there, haven't we? If we can, I don't know what to do with this guy. Do you play him at the start of the game, or do you keep him in a role where he's not Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? He's a game-changing player for you, isn't he? He can come on and win games, and that's what you want off that bench.
Yeah, and I think for those reasons, you bring him off the bench. I think sometimes you've got a strength, so don't suddenly start him and then you go, well, is he a good starter? Maybe not. Do we get the best out of him when he does start? So does he then provide a bit of a weakness? And then we don't have him coming off the bench, so we end up having two weaknesses, I guess. It's a bit like when you take a fullback and you put him at centre, like we've done with Christian Cullen in 99 and various things. Suddenly you don't have your best fullback, but you also no longer have your best centre. And so I think you've got to be a bit mindful of that. But it's interesting, isn't it? And I think what John said, and it's interesting to get his take on it. And yeah, I mean, maybe he is right. Maybe it was worse than Ireland when you do bring the discipline side of into it. But we discussed last week too, it's individuals winning us games at the moment. It's not this collective cohesiveness that's getting the job done. You know, how often now have we been inside the 22 and we just don't seem to be able to get across the try line the way we once did? We just don't seem to have that physicality to be able to breach these defences. And Scotland at times were very, very good in defence. They got up on us and we had plenty of opportunities, but we just don't seem to be able to turn that over to points at the moment, which is an area we need to address. But I keep going back to it. Here we are, 25 tests, still areas we need to address, still major concerns. I mean, how confident is anybody about playing England this week? I'm certainly not. I was jittery against the Scottish. I'm still, still incredibly jittery. Yeah, we're winning. And we must sound like broken records. We say this every week, but man, it's still concerning.
That is the litmus test now, isn't it, John? And I think it's season defining, this match against England.
Massively.
If we win this match against England, we're going to be in a position where, headspace-wise, look, we're going to beat Wales. The Canterbury NPC champions would beat Wales at the moment.
Yeah, I think North Otago or a Heartland team, potentially.
So, we're going to get the Grand Slam and finish on, and I'm not being a dick by saying that, that's just the reality of it, and we'd finish on 6 in a row with an upward trajectory. We'd only lose 2 matches all year. There's lots of positives to take. We lose to England, and I feel we're right back 2022 after losing the series to Ireland, 5 losses in 6 games, wondering whether the coaching group is the right coaching group, all of those questions, and an awful summer ahead of us if that's the case.
Yeah, this feels like the Eden Park South Africa week for me, and I hope they harness that energy, because we got an angry All Blacks team that week that turned up for each other and played like a cohesive unit with a very simple game plan of box kicking on a terrible night at Eden Park, and we got the job done. And that's all we really want at this stage from this game against England, is a win. And we shouldn't be scared of Twickenham. We haven't lost there for 13 years. And we shouldn't really be scared of England either. How many times have they beaten us over the entirety of the fixtures? Something like 8 times in about 40-odd test matches.
But they're capable, though,
and they've won 9 in a row, and they're cocksure, and that's where I like my England. I want them believing in themselves, thinking they can knock over the All Blacks, because that's where I think we get the edge from the ABs, and there should be one this week after the 2 performances so far.
Statement games, and this is and I've been just absolutely knobbing myself off about South Africa and that win against France.
And fair enough, they were awesome.
They were awesome, especially in that second half. But what I am really impressed with them is statement games. Cape Town, they had to win this year. They had to win in Wellington after losing at Eden Park. They had to go to Paris and win, and then they turn up and put in their best performances. So that's what I'm demanding this week from the All Blacks, that this is a game where we have to win. We had to win at Eden Park against the Box. We had to win against Aussie at Eden Park. So is this one of those games where this is where the All Blacks just have to come to play, don't they? That's why I say it's such a statement game.
Failed season if they don't. I mean, even if they do win it and win it ugly, we're still sitting there going, okay, we're winning, but we're not really sort of seeing any real evolution. We're still a mile behind South Africa, really.
Oh, we are. No
I
question.
mean, you look into that South African series next year with this current side and the way they've been playing, you can't, if it was a series being held in New Zealand, you might give us a chance, but we need to make a statement. But I just haven't seen any sort of trajectory that suggests that we're just peaking at the right time. I still just haven't seen it in 25 tests to say that we can put it all together here collectively. England, I mean, there's one side in the world you don't want to lose to, it's England. I can handle losses, some losses, but I cannot handle any loss to the English.
Wait, you can handle some losses?
When's the year that's changed?
When does this happen?
God, is that the new Mark Watson?
No, I can handle the odd loss, in a good close quarter game. I can understand losing by 3 or 4 points in South Africa, and I can almost, but I don't get that level of embarrassment that I get if we lose to the English, just because of the way the English will carry on and the way that they'll just suddenly.
Oh, they've got under your skin, haven't they? They have.
I've spoken to Justin Marshall a lot about this. He just feels embarrassed how the rest of the world then suddenly talks about it. But look, even if we beat England, and I've been thinking about this, going, okay, so we beat England, we go on and beat Wales, we look at the year and we go, we've only had 2 losses, but they were massive, massive losses. But then you also go, okay, so in terms of win-loss, yes, it's an acceptable season, but isn't it acceptable in terms of the progress this All Black team's made? And I still sit there, and I said it the other week, I would still make the coaching change now. I still don't think we've got it right. I'm still not sure we're going to get it right, beat England or not. I just haven't seen enough for this team to be able to go, we are setting a new standard, we are evolving, we are moving forward, and the rest of the world's going to play catch up.
What about some of these young forwards we've been seeing lately, Watto? Like Peter Lakai, you must admit, he's been incredible. Wallace Atiti as well, Fabian Holland. Like, we've got some young forwards who weren't even on the radar 12, 18 months ago, who are now looking like world-class players under this coaching line.
Well, Lakai was. I mean, he played against France and played bloody well last year.
Yeah, 18 months ago, I was thinking.
18 months, yeah. Right.
How do we measure world class, though? I mean, so we've come up against an Australian team that's not the Australian teams of old. We took on an Ireland team, first game of the season for them. Scotland have never beaten us. We lose once in Argentina. We beat Argentina. I expect to beat Argentina every time we play them. I don't care what anyone says. They're still international minnows, in my opinion. No professional club comp. So we can say they're world class, but where are we? Who are we benchmarking against? I think England will be a better benchmark. I think England is one of the true testers. They've had enough game time now for England to be at their best. So yeah, look, we brought some really good players through. I just think those players, you're right, I think they are thoroughbreds, but under this coaching group we're seeing more donkey than thoroughbred. And I think under a different coaching group I think we will see the thoroughbred come out. I've always said it. I believe we've got the players. I believe we've got the players, but I just don't think the buttons are being pushed to get the best out of these guys.
Okay, well, it's not going to change though. Scott Robertson is in charge all the way through to the World Cup. That's an absolute given.
Why though? Why, Martin?
Because he's got a 4-year deal, mate, and they don't ever sack a coach.
Model though, Martin.
Well, because that's just the way that we do it in New Zealand rugby. We don't sack a coach. I mean, Fozzie was damn close, but in the end, the CEO went over there and bottled it and didn't sack him at the time, right? So it's not, I'm just saying, whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. We're not going to sack that coach. Scott Robertson is in charge through to the World Cup, even if we lose against England.
But can I ask you two, then, if we were to lose this test to England, would you, not what New Zealand rugby would do, would you sack these guys?
I wouldn't know.
No, I'm a believer.
Why?
Because I do think that he is the guy right now. I'm not convinced at the moment.
25 tests and you still think he's the guy, Mark?
Well, I still have a little bit of faith. John, do you?
Oh, totally, because I'm a Crusaders fan, mostly, and I know what he did with that squad. Once Richie Mo'unga's back, and we get all the band back together for the World Cup. This is a World Cup project, and we are winning along the way. 2 losses in a season is a damn good season, Mark Watson, under any All Blacks coach.
I just don't. I don't think.
John,
look, I don't. I mean, you say we've got the players, Mark. Come on, I don't know if we have.
And once every 4 years, it's a dangerous.
I'm not sure that we have the cattle at the moment. I believe that we've got. Look, and to me, it always comes down to how many of our team are making a World 15 right now. And I'd say there's probably 2 or 3. Now, back in the glory days we keep talking about 211 to 215. We had 9, 10 or 11 players in that. So our players, to me, the responsibility is they've still got to get better. And it's not just up to the coach to make them better. They've got to become better players themselves. And, you can't.
They don't knock down the ball on purpose, the coaches. They don't foot trip the opposition. They don't drag down a maul on purpose, the coaches. I'm sure they're telling them not to do that. Those are 3 things that happened at the weekend to individual brain farts,
I want to see all our players as good as Cam Roigard in his position. How did he get to be so good in his position?
80 minutes as well.
Was it what, brilliant coaching, or is that guy just so self-determined, goes out there, practices every day and elevates his own game? How many of the other players are actually doing that? I don't know. But if Cam Roigard can be the best in his position and come from... That
comes down to culture, that comes down to selection. I mean, what's their criteria in regards to talent? They're all aspects of talent. So when we say, hey, we're going to pick talented players, well, are they? When it comes down to discipline and doing dumb things, how talented are they in those areas?
Well, I think you've got to cut a little bit of slack there.
Look at the physicality of these players. Sometimes you've got to redefine the definition of talent. I don't want a culture coach. I don't want a celebrity coach. I want a rugby coach. Okay, now,
And I
John,
think he
you
is.
sat
Look,
there and
he's
you talked
been
about he's a
proved there's
Crusaders
7
man.
years.
Look what he's done with the Crusaders.
7
you
champion
don't
years.
have these players staying in one city the whole time. You don't have these players living all in the same area. There's a fundamental difference between being a Super Rugby coach
Yep.
and having access, stability, than being an All Black coach.
Agreed.
I think we can all agree he's learning on the job. And he's advanced. I think he is.
Our
Yeah.
All Black coaches learning
I know.
on the job. With the All Black team, the cash cow. That's what we've reduced ourselves.
But-
Let's learn. Let's learn potential, retirement, and disaster.
Look, I think you've got two ways of arguing this, and the other way, and I want to get on to selections in just a second, the other way of arguing this is simply that if you look at various aspects of the games that we have played this year, and even you take out 20 minutes against Ireland, the first 25 minutes against Scotland, and the last 15 minutes, if this team can put that together for 80 minutes, I think that we're probably all singing a different tune about this. But let's move on, because we haven't got time. Selections. Okay, there are changes, obviously. Caleb is out. Billy Proctor was put up today by the press conference. Does that tell you that Proctor is in at centre alongside Tupaia?
As a journo, I read into these things, and yeah, I do say that once they put up someone during the week, they normally start.
Yeah, there you go.
So I think they are flagging that to us, that they're going to put Billy Proctor in at centre because he is defensively sound, and Leicester Fainganuku, as good as he was last week, missed 7 tackles. And I think if you're starting at centre against England, I don't think you can miss 7 tackles.
So where does Leicester go?
So I think Leicester goes to the left wing to plug Caleb Clark, so that's the change there. It keeps the changes pretty simple. Proctor in, Leicester to the wing.
Who comes in on the bench then as far as midfield then goes? Is it Rico or is it ALB? Is it Rico because he covers 2, Mark? And whether you agree or not doesn't matter. It's just what the selectors are thinking. How do you think that this unfolds?
Yeah, no, I think Rico comes onto the bench. I think that's the obvious choice. Has played at centre, clearly can play on the wing. I still think he's got a bit to offer. Just going back, I don't agree with Billy Proctor starting at centre. I like the Tupaia, Leicester Fainganuku. Yes, Leicester Fainganuku, maybe not as strong on defence last week, but I think, put that down to whatever. I still think that combination in terms of fluidity and getting that backline flowing works better. I would still rather see a Ruben Love come onto the wing and therefore be able to deal with the high ball, which I think was a real strength of Clark's.
That's a good point.
And I think it just gives us some other options. I don't believe in bringing Ruben Love and putting him at fullback and moving fullback to wing. As I mentioned, I think that weakens us in 2 positions. But look, I think Billy Proctor, I just think he's been a bit underwhelming this season. And so I think we end up weakening ourselves again. I think Fainganuku's just better at centre. And I just think that, someone else on the wing. And I just, maybe Billy Proctor, just misses out on the squad if I'm naming this side.
High ball is so weird, isn't it? Like,
Well,
why can't we catch a high ball?
I think we secured 2 against Scotland was the stat that I saw. And I'm not sure whether that's true or not. But it felt like we botched just about the lot.
And that's what we've been doing all season.
Yeah.
And I know they train it as
But
hard as
you
anything.
guys still want to keep these coaches.
They're not dropping the high balls,
Scott
Watto, are
Roberts,
they?
He's not out there catching it, mate.
I don't
I went
understand
to practice at
this.
North Harbour and watched them all drop
How
the
is
ball.
player skill, a coach's fault? Like, surely they're setting them up and then they're dropping balls.
We've got a skills coach, by the way. Let's talk loose forwards. Because is Parker coming back in against England?
To start?
Yeah.
No,
don't
I'm
think
keeping
so?
the same loose forward trio.
Watto,
Absolutely. I
you?
thought they were awesome.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I thought that loose forward trio looked brilliant on paper as well. And look, I've always been a fan of Peter Lakai's. Somewhat surprised that he's, finding his feet at 8 a little bit. I think this will be a very different England team. We'll find out whether we still have a loose forward trio that can make those key moments.
Because they're bringing 2 off the bench every time as well.
Yeah,
Remember
that's
that.
their strength.
Yeah, it is. They've got great loose forwards at the moment. So who then goes into the reserve loose forward position? Do you stay Karifi? Or do you think that because of the height that England bring, I think that's why they will bring Parker back in. I think we need another line out or height option. I'm with Mex on this as far as that loose forward trio goes. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Parker come back in and then one of those guys go back to the bench.
Yeah, this is where I'd love to have a 6-2 split like most other international teams seem to have one. I'd like to have Karifi and Parker on there and just back Cam Roigard to go 80 again. And they say Leroy Carter's played halfback at some stage in his life, so roll the dice and go 6-2. I don't think we're that brave, though.
Scott Barrett comes back in as well, Mark.
Yeah, I just
I
Scott Barrett anywhere near my team. I just wouldn't, mate. I like what I saw on the weekend. I like the height at the line out that both Josh Lord and Fabian Holland bring, and there for those reasons, I would probably still stick with Duplessis, Karifi in the loose forward mix, not needing Simon Parker. I don't know why we need to be too complicated at line out time. You've got 2 guys, just go to them, play the percentages every time. I'm sorry, I'm just not a fan of the Barrett. So I just think they're overrated. I just don't think he's played well all season. Captaincy doesn't sit well on him. It just looked a better team without him. I think it's looked a better team all season without him. I think the other one that the discussion we should be also having a look at is Leroy Carter. You know, why does Leroy Carter automatically secure his spot? I thought he was invisible on the weekend. I think, as I mentioned previously, I think he's a good footballer, but I don't think he's X factor. And I wonder whether someone like a Sevu Reece coming back and might still be a better option.
I'm with you, Watto. Like, that was embarrassing as an All Blacks fan, seeing someone foot trip someone on a field. That'll get you beaten up at high school if you did that on the rugby field at lunchtime. Like,
yeah, so look, it was a rush of blood. It was a dumb mistake. If, you know, and he's a young guy playing hardly any test matches. I'll cut him and Satidi some slack here.
But you can't cut them slack at this level, Martin. And at Twickenham, you know, you can't bring in a guy who's a hothead because he wasn't getting the passes that he wanted from the midfield. He was frustrated, and then someone beat him on the chase, and he stuck out a leg and was in the bin for 10 minutes. You can't do that. But I just think that Caleb Clark injury being out and then making 2 changes on the wings just might be a bit too much. But I'm with Watto. I think on the face of it, I think Leroy Carter does deserve to be dropped this week. 2 quick questions before we go. How awesome was South Africa in that second half, Watto?
Oh, phenomenal. But then I think France played a style of rugby that played into their hands, where I think smarter rugby teams would play a different style and maybe look to try and negate the way South Africa did play. But again, it just highlights just how much better South Africa are than anybody else. And they did much of it with 14 men. It hurts to say it, doesn't it? But they are just clearly the best side in the world. Let's forget all these world rankings if we suddenly drop into the number one ranking. We all know South Africa are the number one side in the world.
Well, no one's kidding.
They've got the best coaching group in the world. And as much as Rassie Erasmus is a genius, the guy might just be the best rugby coach the world's ever seen. And as much as we hate to say that as New Zealanders, that just might be true. No different than what we see with Ireland, what we've seen with Farrell in the past, and what he's done with that Irish team. And again, it's and I just don't know how to stop it. I thought the bubble might be bursting for South African rugby, but I'm not so sure now.
Do we beat England, John?
Yes, we do. We get that edge. We want the Grand Slam. We're desperate for it. The coaching staff are desperate. The players are desperate. I'm sure Scott Barrett and Razor have heard Watto slagging them off, and so they'll be desperate this weekend to prove them wrong. England are a good side, but we know what they're going to do. They're going to bomb all day long, and they're going to hit us hard at the set piece. We need to be ready. We need to show that we can put 80 minutes together, and I think we will. We need that statement.
I think it comes down to 6, 7 and 8 in this game, mate.
Where is the evidence? Where is the evidence to say that we're going to do that?
Well, Marty's jigsaw puzzle that he was putting together of all the minutes from all the games where we've played well and then put them all together and they create 80 minutes. So it's called a bit of blind faith, Watto.
But isn't that sad, isn't it, that we've got taking little pieces of little puzzle and celebrating 10 minutes here and 15 minutes here? That's what we've reduced ourselves to, you know? It's like a cricket team that loses a test match, but we celebrate the century, even though we've lost by an innings and,
we've won the last 2 games.
Wickets.
We've actually won the last 2 games. We've won them in the last quarter of each game, which is a hell of an improvement. So, whether or not we can continue, this is the test for this side. This is, as I said right at the very start, this is the season definer. How good are we? How good are you players? Can you go and win a match in a foreign stadium, which is a really hard place to win? Can you do that? If you can do that, well, then I think it changes the narrative. But this is what being an All Black's about, mate. Having to go and win matches like this.
Yeah, and look, like I say, I mean, I think as All Black fans, we just want to continue to always ask for the more. Yeah, we want to win, but we want to win well. We should never be happy. We should all be just always asking for more and more of this All Black team.
It's okay to be happy every now and again. Just a little bit of happiness.
I think the day that we just start
a little bit of love and light creeping into your life, Watto, as an All Black fan, just a little bit of happiness.
Oh, Liverpool are not playing well. Why should I be happy?
It all comes out now. No, you're right. They should always be held to account, but I think sometimes we go glass half empty. And these 2 wins, like Ireland and Scotland, aren't mud.
They're not mugs, mate. They're not easy beats.
You know, we were up against it by our own doing. A lot of it against Scotland and Ireland, I thought was quite a good finish to the game. Which was a trait of the All Blacks. So we're seeing traits that we like in the All Blacks from a team that have yet to put it together, and we're hoping that they can this weekend, Watto. That's all. Glass half full, optimistic, believing.
Well, if we lose, it's not England won't beat us. We beat ourselves, and that's been the problem with this All Black team. We're not getting beaten by the opposition. We're getting beaten by our own deficiencies, and our own understanding of the game plan.
Huge thank you to Novus Glass for sponsoring this episode of the DSPN and for being a proud partner of the Special Olympics New Zealand. This December, over 1,200 incredible athletes, along with hundreds of volunteers, coaches and other support staff, will be making their way to Christchurch or Tautahi for the Special Olympics New Zealand 2025 National Summer Games. Novus Glass is proud to be supporting something special, and you can help support the athletes too by texting Novus to 3598. That's Novus, Novus 3598. Thanks again, Novus Glass, for supporting us here on the DSPN. Windscreen, crack or chip, notice it, Novus it.
DSPN.